It was 11:42 p.m. on a rainy Thursday night. Daniel Harper sat alone in his small house, grading student papers while an old television played quietly in the background. Outside, rain tapped steadily against the windows. Everything felt normal, until every channel suddenly cut to static. A loud tone filled the room. Daniel looked up. The screen changed to a black background with white text. A robotic voice began speaking.
National emergency warning. Do not look outside between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. Remain indoors. Lock all doors. Cover all windows. Ignore any voices calling your name. Do not respond to knocking. This is not a test. The message lasted only 30 seconds. Then the television returned to normal. Daniel stared at the screen. What was that? Within minutes, social media exploded. People across town reported receiving the exact same warning. Televisions, phones, radios, computers, even electronic billboards displayed the message. Nobody knew where it came from. Local authorities denied any involvement. Government officials claimed it was fake. Most people laughed it off. Some planned to stay awake and watch for anything unusual. Others started live streams. Daniel wasn't worried, at least not yet. But as midnight approached, something began to feel wrong. The neighborhood grew unusually quiet. No passing cars, no barking dogs, no distant sirens, only silence. At exactly midnight, Daniel noticed something strange. The streetlights outside suddenly switched off. Not the lights inside houses, only the streetlights. The road outside disappeared into darkness, a darkness that seemed deeper than it should have been. His phone vibrated. A new alert appeared on the screen. Do not look outside. They notice when you look. Before Daniel could react, the message disappeared. A chill ran through him. At 12:17 a.m., 3 knocks echoed through the house. Knock, knock, knock. Daniel froze. Nobody should be visiting this late. Slowly, he approached the front door. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. The street was empty. The rain continued falling. He remembered the warning. Ignore knocking. So he stepped away. A few moments later, the knocking stopped. At 12:46 a.m., he heard a voice. Danny? His heart nearly stopped. It was his mother's voice. His mother had died 3 years earlier. The voice came from outside the living room window. Danny, please let me in. It sounded exactly like her. Every detail was perfect. For a moment, Daniel almost pulled back the curtain. But then he remembered the emergency broadcast. Ignore any voices calling your name. The voice continued, begging, crying, pleading. Then eventually, it faded away. Unable to sleep, Daniel opened social media. Thousands of people were discussing the warning. One live stream caught his attention. A teenager from a nearby neighborhood was broadcasting live.
The boy laughed at the camera. "This whole thing is fake." Then he turned his phone toward the window. At first, viewers saw only darkness. Then the camera focused. A tall figure stood across the street, motionless, watching.
The live stream ended instantly. The account vanished minutes later. Daniel refreshed the page several times. The live stream was gone. Not deleted. Gone. As if it had never existed. The comments discussing it began disappearing too, one by one. Every mention of the tall figure vanished. Within 10 minutes, there was no evidence the broadcast had ever happened. Daniel felt a growing knot in his stomach. Then he heard movement outside. Carefully, he approached an upstairs window. He didn't look through it. Instead, he peeked at the neighboring house across the street. A faint glow shone through the curtains. Someone was awake. It was Mrs. Bennet, an elderly woman who lived alone. Everyone on the street knew her. She often sat by her front window late at night. Daniel watched her silhouette moving around her living room. Then suddenly, her front door opened. Daniel frowned. Why would she go outside? The emergency warning echoed in his mind. Remain indoors. Do not respond to knocking. Do not look outside. Mrs. Bennet stepped onto her porch. She seemed confused, almost as if she were searching for someone. A few seconds later, she walked into the darkness. Daniel waited. 1 minute. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. She never returned. The front door remained wide open. At 1:12 a.m., every light inside her house switched off simultaneously. At 1:38 a.m., Daniel noticed something beneath the curtain. A shadow, standing directly outside the window. He couldn't see it clearly, only its outline through the fabric. Tall, thin, unmoving. The shadow remained there for nearly an hour, never shifting, never leaving, just waiting. Then, at 2:07 a.m., every electronic device in the house activated simultaneously. The television switched on. His laptop lit up. His phone vibrated. The same image appeared on every screen. A distorted human face. Its eyes were too large. Its smile too wide. Then a voice spoke.
They have already looked. The screen changed. A list of names began scrolling upward. Daniel recognized many of them. Neighbors, shop owners, former classmates. Beside every name was the same word. Looked. The screen suddenly went black. At 2:31 a.m., a scream echoed somewhere outside. Then another. Then silence. No police sirens followed. No emergency vehicles. Nothing. Just rain. At 3:13 a.m., Daniel accidentally dropped a pen. It rolled beneath the curtain. Without thinking, he knelt down to retrieve it. As he reached for the pen, the curtain shifted slightly. Only a fraction. Just enough. For a split second, Daniel looked outside and saw a face.
It was pressed directly against the glass, only inches away, smiling, watching him.
Daniel stumbled backward in terror. When he looked again, the face was gone. But it didn't matter. He had looked. The rest of the night felt endless. Slow footsteps circled the house, back and forth, around and around. Sometimes he heard breathing, sometimes laughter.
At one point, something scratched across the front door. At another, dozens of voices whispered his name from outside. But nothing entered, nothing attacked. It simply waited. Then, at exactly 4 a.m., everything stopped. The footsteps, the whispers, the scratching, all gone. The streetlights flickered back to life. Birds began singing. The darkness lifted. Morning had arrived. After waiting another hour, Daniel finally opened his front door. The neighbourhood appeared normal, except for one thing. Every house on the street had its front door standing open. Every single one. Later that day, authorities received hundreds of missing person reports. People had vanished during the night. Most had one thing in common. They admitted they looked outside. No bodies were ever found. No evidence was ever discovered. Officials declared the entire incident a hoax. The source of the emergency broadcast was never identified. That evening, Daniel received a text message from an unknown number. Attached was a photograph. The message contained only 4 words. "We saw you too." The sender was never found, and Daniel never felt truly alone. After receiving the photograph, Daniel zoomed in. His blood ran cold. Across the street, standing on Mrs. Bennet's porch, a figure wearing her clothes, her cardigan, her slippers, her hairstyle. But the proportions were wrong. Its arms hung too low. Its smile stretched impossibly wide. And it was staring directly at the camera. Daniel nearly dropped his phone. A second message arrived. This time there was no image, only a short audio file. Hands shaking, he pressed play. At first, he heard only static. Then a familiar voice emerged. Mrs. Bennet. Soft, weak, as if speaking from very far away. "Don't let them copy you." The recording ended. A third message arrived immediately afterward. This one contained a single sentence. "We already did." Daniel's phone screen suddenly filled with a front-facing camera image. He hadn't opened the camera, yet there he was, staring back at himself. For a moment, everything looked normal. Then the version of Daniel on the screen slowly smiled. Daniel wasn't smiling. The image continued staring, its smile widening further and further. Then the screen went black. The phone shut itself off. No matter what he tried, it never turned on again. 3 days later, Mrs. Bennet was officially declared missing. Authorities found her house empty. The front door was still open. But investigators noted something strange in their report. Inside the living room, written repeatedly across every wall, was the same sentence.
over and over, hundreds of times, in handwriting that appeared to belong to Mrs. Bennet.
I looked. No explanation was ever found. And 6 months later, emergency services quietly archived every record of the incident. Officially, it never happened. Unofficially, people still report receiving the broadcast, usually just before midnight, usually during heavy rain. And every version ends with the same warning. Do not look outside. They notice when you look.